All right, good morning, everybody. Gonna do some drawing today, and hope you're all doing well on this fine, soon to be very hot Sunday morning. It's gonna be brutal out there. So, got a bunch going on, lots to talk about. As a matter of fact, I'm a little bit late this morning because I did that thing I do where I'm all set up for my stream, everything's ready to go. I look down at what I'm about to start working on. I'm like, oh, well, let me do something there. Let me do something there. And then all of a sudden time slips away and it's all gone. I look up and I'm like, oh, God, it's 10. So my apologies for that. Anyway, hi, Ma. Good morning. Nice to see you. So we got some cool things going on that I actually wanted to just bring up. First of all is Terry and I have been doing this little funny series on who's your favorite artist. And we do that on camera. They're like 20 seconds long because we change our favorite artist every week. It's like if I ask her one day who's your favorite artist, the next day who's your favorite artist, it's flipping around. It depends on context. It depends on what's going on. Hi, Ben. Nice to see you, buddy. So the factors of, you know, the context switch this around. So we started doing this thing every week. Who's your favorite artist? So it kind of goes like this. It's like, who's your favorite artist this week? So who's your favorite artist this week? I want to know. Tell me in the chat who you're interested in, who you're looking at right now. Could be somebody totally obscure on Instagram. Could be a craftsperson. Could be an architect. Could be somebody that's musically inclined. Who's your favorite artist? Curious about that. We're doing more cabinet cards today because, number one, we've got a cabinet card workshop coming up, which I will plug later in the stream. I will put some information in on that. I'm excited for that. I will answer questions about that if anybody has them, because there are some questions around, you know, where do I get a cabinet card? What can I work on? What types of things should I be using? So we'll get to that in a little bit. Mom says Jim Kopp, of course. I had a feeling that was coming from you, Ma. Jim Kopp is, of course, your, you just recently collected a Jim Kopp piece. So, yeah, so that's cool. But anyway, cabinet card workshop coming up. We'll talk about that a little bit later. I also have a show of cabinet cards that's going to be coming up soon. I don't have those dates yet. I was just asked to be in it. I have to drop the work off on Tuesday, but it's going to be in the Lebanon Museum, which is an old schoolhouse in Lebanon Township Museum, I should say. Lebanon Township Museum, which is in New Hampton, New Jersey. Ben says, do I have to pick just one? Yeah, see, that's the problem, right? It's like, no, it's impossible for us, right, to pick just one. So no, you don't. But typically, like the way Terry and I are doing it on this series is, yeah, we do. We have to pick one in that moment and say it and talk about maybe why. Those videos we're making, by the way, are going up on Patreon. So that's Patreon unlockable content if you join. And they're fun. They're fun. So anyway, show at the Lebanon Township Museum. They're going to be doing a little exhibition on pandemic-related art. And Gina Sampaio, who is the director of that museum and also curates the shows there, along with Robbie Lynn Mwangi, they both do an excellent job in that tiny little schoolhouse. It's a very cool space. So I'll be throwing some cabinet cards in there for an exhibition. So wanted to get a few more done today. Work on a few. Last week, so I was like, meh. We were doing a lot of talking last week, though, so I couldn't really... I have a hard time streaming and drawing. Oh, hi, Amanda. I saw Chloe Wise in Lower Manhattan last weekend. So is Chloe Wise your new favorite artist? Because I'd be interested to hear about that. I will check her out. I will check her out. I'm writing her name down right now as you're telling me. But we are looking at some traveling things, some traveling plans. And one place we want to go is Mass Mocha, because there's a couple of things going on at Mass Mocha that we want to check out and we want to bring to you as video content. Frank Frazetta. Okay, cool. Cool. I'm gonna try and pull some of these up if I can at some point today. Frank Frazetta. Not new favorite, just relevant to this week, I guess. Yeah, and that's what matters, right? So we want to get up to Mass Mocha and potentially do some camping up there, and check out the James Turrell piece that's been permanently installed there and is open. But here's the problem, is it's basically an oculus in an enclosed, I don't remember whether it was a water tower or a grain silo, but he's converted this massive structure into one of his light pieces. And during the day, at normal hours during the day, it's a sound piece, it's a projected light piece, there's a lot that goes on in there, and you can pass in and out with no problem. However, the oculus in the top only opens at sunrise and sunset, and they have limited viewing capacity, so you have to make a reservation. And of course, all the reservations are booked between now and September, if I'm not mistaken, so we're out on that. So we have to try and figure out how we can get up there to do that. There are other things going on at Mass Mocha that would be good to film, but getting up there and not seeing the James Turrell would be, heartbreaking. So I can't justify that. So we're working on that. We're also trying to work on an interesting Father's Day collaboration. So we were going to go out and see the Wyeth collection for that, but they're currently also not keen on crowds yet, so we can't do that yet. So anyway, these are just some thoughts that are roaming around. I had a koi pond cam on this morning, so this morning the camera is not on the river, it's on the pond. And the reason it's on the pond is because one of my drawings today will involve a carp. And so since I have a few carp of my own, a few koi of my own out there, I dug that thing by hand, by the way. That's 5,000 gallons of koi pond. And my koi, they're getting old. Well, not old, not for koi. Koi live to be about 80 years old. My koi, that big giant one you see in there, he's about 5 years old, 4 or 5 years old. They're about 24 inches. They're good size. Of course, they're going to go off camera the minute I put the camera on them. But yeah, so I have a carp in play this morning. Plus, yesterday, I got out to do some drawing on the river, and I saw these gargantuan carp. They had to be 3-4 feet long. They were massive, and they were swimming right up to the edge and kind of rolling over and over with one another. So, carp on the brain, I guess, is what you could say. So let's pop over to what I'm potentially drawing today. I've got these images, and I've got this couple here. He's going to be the carp. She is going to be a kingfisher. How about that? I knew you did, Ben. Yeah, you meant to say did. Yeah, I did that. I dug that pond. And, it's tough having a koi pond on a river, right? Because we've got herons, bald eagles, great blue herons, bald eagles, and osprey, as well as minks, foxes, raccoons, bear, and a host of other predators that, will sometimes try to get in there. Now, it's hard to see on this pond right now, but if you look very closely at that rock wall, just above it, down towards the hostas, you'll see a little white line that runs along, and that's 600 volts of electricity to the poor unfortunate creature that tries to get in there, and it's nailed a few of them, but it doesn't always work. And we just lost a couple of really beautiful koi in the last couple of weeks. And we lost one last spring. That was our oldest one. She was getting up to about 28 inches long. She was our biggest. She used to lay eggs in the pond, and she wasn't taken by a predator. She was taken by a fungal infection that got into the pond. So anyway, we're going to be drawing on these guys. I'm going to be painting this guy as the carp. You can sort of see the drawing that's sort of worked its way in, this long carp face. And thanks, Ben. And then she's going to be our kingfisher. This one I started off with a quick sketch of a kingfisher on her head, almost like one of those big masks. We'll see where that goes. Yeah, I'm multi-talented. I also have back problems from digging that. Shoulder problems. I have bursitis in my shoulder because I dug a lot of it with a post hole digger and then a shovel. So my neighbor Dave helped me dig that. It's about 50 inches deep at the center. So that's so when they go down below in the wintertime, they can hibernate with no problem. So, but they do pretty well in there. They come right to you. They'll eat out of your hand. A lot of those fish were born in there. One that's interesting, he's off camera right now. I'm gonna go back to my main camera real quick. So you can see there's one that's black, red, and white. He's about midway up, swimming up towards the, the middle there. He's hard to see, but that is a fish called a Dainichi giant. He's young. Dainichi is a breeder, a Japanese koi breeder, and he has a strain of koi called the giant. And the giant currently holds the world record for the largest koi ever bred. So it's estimated that that fish will hit about 42 to 50 inches when he's full grown. 42 to 50 inches is freaking gargantuan. It's absolutely gargantuan. He will dominate that pond when he's full grown. So we're looking forward to that. Hopefully he will grow to full size. Of course, now they know I'm watching them. They're all off camera. But one of my plans is to have my daughter go out and feed them in a little while. So I'll switch back to that camera when it's time for them to eat. All right, anyway, back to drawing. Let's do some drawing and painting, because that's what we're really here for. And we'll go from there. I got some art trivia today, since we seem to like the art trivia. Of course, last week, that's the reason why I just totally botched all my work. I got into the trivia too much. I'm like, the heck with drawing today. Let's do art trivia. We had a good time with it, though. So our guy here, is going to need to have, this carp is going to need to have a couple of base coats. So we get rid of him. So we're going to hit that with some gouache. It's going to be an olive brown color. We'll layer that up over time. These are also very, very small, which I'm a little reluctant about. And that's from the standpoint of balance, right? I want to be able to balance my impact on the card. In other words, you think about the various ways you could affect this card, how you could, draw something on here, right? We're going to add something to this card. Fine. But at what point does it make a difference? At what point does it do something impactful? Like, I could simply draw and paint a little brooch on her dress. End of story. Have I done anything? Well, yeah, but at what level have I impacted my surface? Or is it enough, I guess is the question. How do we know when it's enough? How do we know when it's too much? I could also transform this into something totally different. I could gesso over the whole thing, leave no trace of what was there. And the goal here is to kind of, have that cabinet card as an influence, but also make it mine. This is one of the things we're going to talk about in that cabinet card workshop, is understanding those boundaries, understanding those levels to which you can have an impact on the work. All right, so let's let him be for a little bit. I kind of think my carp head is going to go down in the shirt rather than down in the jacket. I think the carp will be wearing, but then it weirdly goes down behind the jacket as well. And I'm okay with that kind of awkwardness. It's going to be a strange piece. Should I organize a feeding on the fish? This should be something we should be spending viewer loyalty points on. 1,000 points, you get to see the fish get fed. I'm not serious about that. You don't have to spend your loyalty points on it. Don't do that. Although I might set something like that up in the future. Maybe we have Koi Pond Cam every day. So we want the top of this guy's head to be considerably darker. I'm going to bring in some lighter white gouache to blend with that. Whole gill and cheek here, you know, kind of blend. I'll blend all this in a little bit. I'm not too worried about the two distinct colors right now. It kind of moves its way down his face. And then he's got this scale pattern that rides down his back. All right, now that needs a blending, so we'll get to blending that. I'm also going to carve out a section for this guy's big old eye. I'm going to a little hyper exaggerate the eyes a little bit on this because I think it will make for an interesting piece. We're going to let this dry a little bit. I like that the white in this has such a great opacity to it, right? So, you know, even though that's lighter than I want it to be ultimately, I'm going to let that dry so that I can kind of get in there and work back over that with another glaze. It's gouache. You can't really glaze with gouache, but we'll get some dark over the top of this. Let's see if we can't work on her Kingfisher head a little bit. The nice thing about the Kingfisher that I love is that super prominent beak, and how that beak rides right up into the face. And I'm just sort of improvising here without any kind of help. So if I colossally screw this up, and then of course they've got this spike thing, they're very punk, going down the back of the head. And here's where you got to be careful with this. The head on the Kingfisher goes way back, and I don't know if that's to give it sort of an extra sort of thrusting power when it's going in to kill its prey, you know, on that dive like a woodpecker has. Now here's the thing about her, right? I can't really get an effective Kingfisher head inside this neckline. See her neckline? I'd love to make it look like it actually sits there, but I think what I'd rather do is improvise her neckline a little bit back to here. And if that doesn't work, that's fine. I might actually even make it look like this is sitting on top of her like a big old mask. So we'll do that one way or another. But that beak, in comparison to the head, the beak is about the same length as the head, right? If I remember correctly. So we've got a length here. But this is too short. And what I would love to do is bring this right down to our carp's head, sort of implying the threat that she... Plus she's 3/4 view, right? So I'm not gonna, I mean, I wanna try and 3/4 view this head a little bit here, which is why I'm sort of filling out this triangle here, which is sort of implying there's a turn, right? But who knows? And frankly, who cares? I mean, I love what's happening with the carp so far. The carp looks sad. The carp is sad. Sad carp. I'm gonna see if I can organize a feeding here. All right, I just organized the fish food, a fish feeding. So maybe we'll go over to solo cam for the fish feeding in a second. This particular lead in this pencil spreads so like effectively. It's a very, very dark pencil lead. So when you get it down on the page, it's like, man, it does not want to come back out. It smears all over the place. Of course, that's partially my eraser, right? Let's try a different eraser on this. Yeah. It's picking up a little bit, not as much as I wanted it to. Let's see if we can go over to, now you're gonna see those fish start to come all towards one spot when they see my daughter heading outside, because they know it's feeding time. So when they see her coming, they're all gonna go to the rocks. That squarish rock, they're all gonna move in that direction. So that's how I'll know she's out there. Oh, here they come. Is that them? Are they? Yep. They sent. Yep, they're coming. So let's see what we got. I think they know she's out there. Yep, they're gearing up for it. They know she's there. They're getting active. Yep, here she comes. All right. So a little fish feeding frenzy. So you feed these fish, you feed them based on the temperature of the water, right? So they go without food from the months of late October all the way until early May. They have no food whatsoever. And they've stored up fat. They've stored up, you know, enough that they can get through the season. So then once the weather gets warm and their body systems start to speed up, their metabolism speeds up, it's safe to feed them. If you feed them when it's cold and their metabolisms are slow, they wind up with fatty liver disease and they die. So everybody's like, oh, you don't feed them, that's so cruel. No, actually they don't need to eat at all, and it's actually poisonous to feed them. And just like that, all that food is gone. So we'll hit them again before the end of the show, don't worry. So let's keep going on our big old Kingfisher head here. I'm gonna mix up a nice blue-gray to put down on that head. Just to get a little bit of a coating going here. Now, this is just a first undercoat. Needs to be a little more chromatic. Let's get a little more color in there. The trick with this is clearly going to be getting that head correctly dimensioned. This comes down around the beak here. Yeah, that's going to work well once we get that worked out. Now, of course, the whole bottom of this head here is white, right? But my interest in the beginning was just to kind of get something down that would help to obliterate that image and allow me to see what I'm doing. What could be kind of cool about this too is if it doesn't live as Kingfisher, but Kingfisher functions as the jumping off point for these two, and then all of a sudden, you know, we wind up with something different, something else. She kind of evolves. Let's get some white going. You guys up for any art trivia today, or are you too deep into your work? What do you think? You let me know. And there is some kind of oily substance on this that I am just not loving right now. I think that's why it wasn't properly erasing before. Something is on the surface. And I just totally smeared her. Okay. Emergency. Let's get that out of there. Let's get some blue going. Let's get back in here and just fix her real quick. Honestly, I love these kinds of errors because they sort of force some new thought on the piece. Make me reconsider where she's going. Ben wants to know if I watched Eyes Wide Shut recently. It feels that way, doesn't it? This definitely has an Eyes Wide Shut kind of vibe to it. But no, I have not watched that recently. I'm going to go with a little bit of this simple black on that beak, and then I'm going to paint on top of it. So I'm going to lay down that mega black that I was playing with last week, because I like what the color does on top of it. I love that jet black on there. Oh, it looks so good. Love that. I would also use this black in this like for maybe a pupil, right? Give a little added depth in there. So maybe on my carp pupil and on my, God, I wish you could see me right now. I'm making such a mess. Okay, just to give you an idea of the transferability of this pigment, this simple black pigment, I just made like one error while cleaning up, and my hands are just destroyed. It's like everywhere. So I'm really getting into the work today. But I mean, like one drop, it's everywhere. I can't get over how far this stuff goes. It's unbelievable. It's like oil paint, but it's not oil paint. Oh, cool. How did my mom and dad see the beginning of it? Oh, were they visiting your father? That might have been what was going on there. Okay, let's get a little bit of highlighting going here. Is that black dry yet? Let's see. Yeah, mostly. A little white tip on the beak. Of course, I want to blend that a little bit. And then we got a white highlight across the top. Tone that down. Yeah, that white sits up pretty nicely on that. I'm happy with that coloration. Of course, there's a slightly darker section here under the eye, like right around the eye. There's some really nice darkening going on. So I might just play a little bit with that just to see where I can go with it. And I can, of course, always go back over if I'm not satisfied. What I love about this is it really can give me an opportunity to deepen some of the shadowy areas under this. And that's what I think I like about this paint so much, rather than its sort of, you know, the techie qualities, the ways in which it's been used to sort of sell it, like, hey, you can paint this sculpture and make it flat. Okay, cool, but to me, this is way more interesting, because now once I'm laying down this shadow layer, I can paint on top of that and have things, number one, sit up much higher, and number two, you know, have that much more depth to what's underneath them, which, you know, I think feels really good. And I just realized you're still looking at me. You probably want to look at the pond. So, all right, so let's see where we're going to go with this. We're going to get a little shadow back here. And let's just see if we can't push that around a little bit. Then I'm going to come back in on that with some blue. Push this around inside here. Okay, let's move over to him for a little bit. I want to do a little more on this carp. He's mentioning wanting to darken his head a little bit. Give him like a really... Push that eye up a little bit. Got this space. There's a space inside this lip that's darker, kind of showing the inside of his mouth a little bit. Oh yeah, that's coming together. I'm gonna like that. I gotta zoom in on it. Yeah, I'm not ready to zoom in on it yet, but hope that isn't toxic. Yeah. Me too, Amanda. Because he does talk in the videos about how to use the paint, and one of the things he gets into is using it as a body paint, and you can tell he's totally cagey on the issue. He's like, well, you can use it, but I don't recommend using it as a body paint for too long. And I'm like, I don't think that necessarily gets you out of any kind of liability with that kind of explanation. I'm trying to blend in a little bit of yellow in this face down here. Got a real nice golden color. Let's see if we can turn my mic a little bit here because I'm not right where I need to be. All right, that's better. Part of, you know, the thing about a fish's face, if you look really closely, you know, we always sort of generalize about these things. We're like, oh, scales, oh, you know, gills. But there's a musculature to this face that has certain highlights in certain areas. And it's really quite interesting. So I'm going to build it slowly, right? It doesn't look like it now, but I am going to build it slowly. Plus there's just a nice highlight in certain areas of the eye, which I want to make sure I get right. Ah, he gazes up at her. He gazes up at her lovingly. She looks down at him menacingly. He says, I don't like that look on your face. She says, you shouldn't. Seems like my focus is a little bit out here. Let's see. I will say this, after using some DSLRs at good lenses for this stream, if I had to review this camera right here that I'm pointing into, which is a highly respected camera in the streaming world, it's not going to get a good review from me. It's just not. They got to make some improvements to this one. I'm not in love with it. I mean, for the price point, it's pretty good, but. He lives his life in fear that she'll devour him at any moment. Let's get underneath this shadowy part of the chin here. You guys want an art trivia question? Oh, thanks, Ben. Appreciate that. Yeah, like the koi, he's not a koi, the carp, because he's, you know, he's frankly, he's a real general, sort of plain. Carp tend to be, you know, all koi and carp are bottom feeders for the most part, right? But this guy is just, you know, if he were a koi, he would not be a desirable koi. He's very plain. He's very understated. Which to me makes him, you know, Makes it more interesting. I think we need to let him dry a bit. We'll move on to her. He's I really want to eyeball. I really want to put in that eyeball. Yeah, let's dot the I here. I just like that slight dark, whoops, reference in that eye. Still not perfectly focused, I see. Let's see if I can get it in there. The eyeball on that is starting to look... Got a little ways to go on that. I've got to add some reflectivity in there. He's not bad. He's still a little... I mean, again, these often are sloppy for me through the beginnings until I get all my forms generally worked out, and then they start to pull together. So let's get the eyeball in on our Kingfisher female and go from there. We'll see if we can't get that a little bit more fleshed out. Let's pull up a trivia question. Why not? Let's see. All right, here's one for you. What is unusual about Mona Lisa's eyebrows in the famous Leonardo da Vinci painting? What's unusual about her eyebrows? Don't look it up. Don't look it up. Thank you for that, Ben. What is unusual about the Mona Lisa's eyebrows? Ben says they are fake. No idea. You're not terribly far off. You're not right. I won't say that that's right, but you're... They're symmetrical. No. I'll give you a hint. You ready? Hold on a minute. In order to get this hint correct, we've got to go to my cam. Oh, the pond cam shut off. Does that mean you're stuck with me? That's horrible. All right. She's the polar opposite of me. How about that? Now be careful how you answer. She's the polar opposite of me. Now no one's going to answer. Now that I said that, everybody's going to be like, I'm not touching that one. Nobody. nobody. Let's see if I can get that camera fixed outside while I'm here. I'm going to mic off for a second. You guys think about Mona Lisa's eyebrows and how they're different. Haha, yes, Amanda, non-existent. That's right. She doesn't have any, which makes her the polar opposite of me because I am like, I always make a joke that if I did a self-portrait, I could put big eyebrows on a box of cereal and it would look like me. So yes, that is correct. She has no eyebrows. All right, I'll be right back. Hold on a second. But like very subtle. No, non-existent. They're not there. I don't think she has them at all. I've got to look it up to be sure, but I'm pretty sure they're not there. All right, hang on a second. Still here, just working on a fix for that issue. No eyebrows. Right, exactly. My technical assistant should be here shortly. And I am sure he will be able to help me with that problem. Hi. Miking off. I'll be right back, everybody. All right, we're gonna see if he gets that fixed for us. Now, there's some areas where the blue-black bleeds down into, typically the blue-black feathers sit on top of the white and sort of, this transition point looks too much like the white is sitting on top to me, so I wanna go back over it with my blue-black just to kind of give it a, push it underneath a bit. Let's see if he got our camera back. Nope. It is not there yet. Oh, there it is. Our camera is back. I have a feeling what happens is that camera's sitting out there baking in the sun right now. And it's probably overheating. The fish are very active. They think they're getting fed. Maybe he'll feed them. Probably not. He's terrified of being on camera. Thank you. Worked perfectly. All right, we're back to okay, this song needs to be taken off the playlist. This is really nice. I love the way the line of the beak, this needs to be better defined because this beak, this is the thing that's cool about a kingfisher, is that beak is like a spear, but it opens up so wide, they can swallow quite a good sized fish. It's pretty impressive actually. Let's see, I want a little bit more definition, a little more highlight in that area so we can see what's going on. Also, there are typically white markings on the face. No eyebrows. No eyebrows. I typically have like a little white blaze there, and sometimes where the beak comes into contact with, like right in here. This darkens in this region. I noticed that, you know, given weather, given summer coming, streaming probably gets, you know, and plus people are getting vaccinated. people watching streams are going to become fewer and fewer because everybody wants to go outside, and man, do I hear that. Right? We all do. I like that. I like what's going on there. Let's get a little bit of white on top of that beak now. I think I want the white on the beak to be like a highlight intersecting the face here. Like that. You know, I think Sunday morning, especially on a day that's going to be around 90, is a terrible time to stream because everybody's like, it's still cool out. I'm going to go outside, ride my bike, go for a run. Feel less like I'm going to die from a blood clot getting thrown. Which I'll tell you what, I spend a lot of time content creating in this chair, and sometimes my watch has said to me, time to stand, time to stand. You're going to die. Time to stand. It's alarming. Oh, yeah. And that's what I'm talking about. She is fierce in her simple brown dress. All right, Kingfisher's going to need some highlight on the eye. So let's get a little of that worked in. We're going to do that in 2 stages. The first stage we'll probably want to mix a little bit with the black, so it's going to be dull. And you know, one thing to keep in mind with that is to kind of work possibly with the contour of the eyeball shape. We would not want our highlight in the eye to defy the sphericality, the rounded nature of the eye. We wouldn't want that to happen. Now above this eye right here, we've got an eyebrow, like a, you know, where the brow of the head is. So I want to accentuate that just a little bit. And that's going to be a little bit lighter because, as you can imagine, light's going to hit that a little bit more heavily. I'm just mixing up a little color for that. See if we can't get something that works here. And I want that to follow up on the contour of that head. And what that's going to do is it's going to bring up the brow and push down the shadow a little bit, which is kind of nice. And that will ride around the back. And it kind of works in conjunction with this white. That's good. That works. Yeah, see, now I like the way that kind of creates a depth there. Got the highlight on the top, pushing back underneath. She's starting to look pretty cool. And he's just scared, which is fine. He should be. In our next cabinet card series, relationships where the man gets devoured. Next week, Praying Mantis. That's a fun one. Let's see about a little bit more. Let's get in with a little bit more of the black as shadow point. We'll get a few more little deep shadows going on the head. Just a couple. We definitely don't want to overdo it here. Yeah, that's working well. I think I need a darker color in here to pull this together right here. I'm not thrilled about this mottled area here. I think I'm gonna try and mix something up. I'm gonna try and experiment here though. I'm gonna go with that simple black. And gouache together. See where I land. Yeah, that's kind of cool. And then this is not white all the way back. I'm going to change this back here to something a little bit less prominent. The white sort of functions as a collar below. The blue and black sort of ride around the back of the head a little bit. That's good. That's good. I really like that. Although that blue, that's a little bit too chromatic for me. So let's let that settle down. And then actually, let's leave it while it's wet. Let's just see what it's like to add a little bit of the black to it. All right, we're gonna let that be right there. It's not bad, it's not bad. Okay, so Ben, hold on, Amanda says, I got my second shot yesterday. I'm currently miserable. Ah, Amanda, I hear you. I'm wondering would you get Pfizer or did you get Moderna? Second shots are hit or miss with people. I have friends that all over the map. Ben says, hey Todd, I was contemplating the idea of not doing any more sculpting and do painting full time. What do you think? After seeing last Tuesday's episode, I feel like my ideas are unoriginal. Okay, so a couple things in that. One, I am super excited that you're starting to see the influence of other artists and how it could change your work. Okay, that's important, right? We should all do that. So last week's episode was Double Parlor. They're exciting, right? It's exciting to see that stuff, and it makes you think about how your own work can change. So good for you. But not doing any more sculpture, I think is a huge mistake. I think, you know, there's an area, okay, so you know me, I work across sculpture, painting, video, textiles. I've got a vast array of practices that I sort of engage in. And there are areas of extreme comfort for me, areas like, you know, that I know that if I sit down, I'm gonna know the material, I'm gonna know how to apply that material, and I'm gonna know I can get exactly what I want. Now that's a good thing and a bad thing, right? Because what happens is, and this might go towards why you feel like things are unoriginal, is when something's unpredictable, when something is not, you're not a full-blown expert in the area, that's when new stuff can arise. Like in this case, maybe mistakes, right? So, you know, mistakes can lead to, and I'm putting air quotes around that, they can lead to new things and give you a thought of, wow, well, okay, that's not what I expected at all. That looks like a weird nodule in a place I didn't expect that. Well, what if I did that all over? Like, what if I applied that to, like, all of a sudden now you've got something new in the toolbox because you're out of your comfort zone. You wouldn't have discovered that if you were in the comfort zone. So my suggestion is, yes, continue to sculpt in the way that you always did, because that's going to keep you moving. Moving the hands is a super important thing, right? But then making the effort to bust out aside of that into other regions and make those the areas where you generate and learn new material, that is absolutely crucial. Okay, so don't stop one thing in favor of starting another thing full time. Just expand the diversity of what you're doing, and that's going to give you more of a place to pull from. And it looks like okay, so my mom has sent another image of the one that she's working on now. And this is just, I love it. I love it. So Mom, permission to put this up. Oh, Amanda, you got Pfizer. Headache like my COVID. Yeah, I did have a low-lying headache with I had Pfizer also. But after first shot is when I had fatigue, low-level headache, a little bit of body ache. But second one, I was good. Now, I had a friend who was the total opposite of that. Good on the first, got rocked on the second one. So, you know, you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay, ultimately. So, but I feel you. I totally get it. So Mom says it's okay to actually put this up today. So I want to put up Mom. She's calling it Bird Nest Woman. So let's, Mom's got the cabinet card thing going on. Now, Mom, because this was sent as a text, remember it comes up sideways. I don't know why. It's just full body aches and fever. Oh man, that's not good. Advil, I'm a big fan. But Tylenol's the better fever reducer if I'm not mistaken. I am not a doctor. You know that. I'm just trying to help. Let's take a look at Mom's. I'm just going to go to the solo cam for a second, and then I'm going to pop over to this sideways view of her bird nest woman, which is kind of awesome. She's got, you know, I love the way you integrated, you know, you kind of saw this woman's head and just kind of like threw that in there, right? So nicely done. Now, when we get to the workshop, right, I'm going to be able to make a bunch of sort of teacher-like suggestions for you to do simple little things that are going to just tighten that up just a bit, right? Because I feel like the minute I look at this, I see like 2 little things I would do to just make it feel a little bit more integrated, a little bit more attached to her head. But I'm not going to do that now. But I will do that in, it does, Amanda's right on target. It totally suits her. It feels like that belongs there. So I love it. I love it. All right, let's go back to our desk cam. And it looks like our camera outside has overheated again. So you're stuck with me. That's okay. It's got to turn off once in a while. It's after 11. It's probably hitting in the 80s out there right now. So I'm going to go back to this poor carp and his very hungry wife, companion. She stands over him. I like that she's, you know, I do like that compositionally when the photographer set up this cabinet card shot, he's taking second chair to her. She stands, he sits, she towers over him. So this says a lot about their relationship, especially for the time that this was shot. Oh, by the way, some of these cabinet cards have the most brilliant typography underneath, number 1, but sometimes even better on the back. Look at the back of this from the Photographic Atelier of Photographic Association of America, 1890, awarded to this man, C. Heinberger and Son, first prize, 11th Annual Convention. Photographer Association of America, awarded to him, Buffalo, New York. Heinberger and Son. New Albany, Indiana. Duplicates can be had at any time. 1893. 1893. She had such a soulful face, I didn't want to touch it. Yeah, you know, sometimes you want to cover them up. Like in this case, I love the stance. I love the little side table. You know, this sort of fuzzy rug. So the face was the best, to me, the most logical place. It's totally changed the narrative that's going on here. We like your piece, Mom. You're getting good response there. All right, let me find my brush. Oh, you sent the back of yours. Oh, you've got a great back on yours. You guys got to see this. So on Mom's card, she has a really nice card back. Let me pull that up for you. Let's take a look at that. And let me go to a full screen here. Hang on a second. Look at that. Medal award at World's Fair Chicago, 1893. Everybody's touting their awards. All these little putti. These little cherubs floating around this thing. Pittsburgh, PA. A lot of these were in the Midwest, these studios. Huh. Nice. Love that. All right. I have a feeling this one is going to wind up in our show, our upcoming show. I would be excited to have this one in there, so we will see. Which means if it's going to be in that show, it's got to be done today. I noticed lately that there are quite a number of cabinet cards up on eBay. So if you're interested in trying this, if you intend to do the workshop, the workshop. Love the Kingfish and the Carp. Thanks, Ma. Yeah, this one's working, I think. Let me find. I got to get my link up here so I can share it with you. Hang on one second. I need my keyboard. Let's pull up our upcoming event so I have it here. And let's see what we have. Exquisite Reinvention. Drawing on cabinet cards will be my workshop. And I just want to get to, so first of all, we're going to be doing this on June 27th at 7 p.m. And it's $10, right? It's a 1.5 hour long workshop. And I will go through not only the brief history of cabinet cards, but I will show you a number of artists that actually work on cabinet cards. I'll show you their work. I'll talk about this notion of responding to imagery that's already there. We'll talk about collage. We will talk about assemblage. We will talk about how to sort of paint on, draw on, and manipulate these. Then, just like the way my mom is sending us pictures of the cabinet cards she's working on right now, I will not only do the same with you, but I will give you commentary, critique coming back at you, talk about how to improve upon them, little touches that you could add to make them that much better. So it'll be like a full class. I haven't decided if seating is limited yet, just because, you know, I haven't gotten to the point where I need to make that decision. However, if you sign up for the course, you're going to get several things. Number one, you're going to get a list of recommended materials, mandatory materials, and they're inexpensive. You can get them from Amazon in a couple of days. They won't cost you that much. And advice on how to get yourself a cabinet card in time for this show. Two, if you cannot get a cabinet card in time for this show, I will have a PDF available to you that you can print, a high-res PDF of one of my cabinet cards, blank of course, that you can download and print out. Then it's just a matter of adding some spray fixative, a spray can of clear material that you can pick up from Amazon for about $8. And then, boom, you're ready to go. You can actually start working on one just to get the feel of it. Now, cabinet cards are not that expensive to buy on eBay. You can pick them up for between $1.50 and $3 to $4 a piece. Sometimes it's nice to buy in bulk. I've actually bought box lots of them where I get like 40 for $40, so you can get it down to $1 a piece. I don't know if you have the capacity for 40 cabinet cards, but you can get that kind of number. So the cabinet card session, again, is June 27th, and it is on. It's going to be a private streaming. So let me put that in the chat for you guys so you have it. Pop that out there. There we go. So that will be the actual sign-up page for that. Now, if you sign up for this, I'm going to need an additional favor from you when you sign up. You can send me an email. Now, of course, I get notified that you sign up, but for some reason, this interface is not sending me the emails of my attendees, which is problematic, right? I need that. So if you sign up, I would like you to send me your email to lambricksstudio@gmail.com, lambricksstudio@gmail.com if you sign up for this. And I will repeat that over and over again. If you forget the email, don't worry. I can tell you on the show. Most of you know who I am and where to get in contact with me. But consider taking it. It's going to be a fun night, and we'll have a good time. All right, now let's get back to doing some work here. Let's get back to this poor fella who's going to need to be extracted from his wife's innards at some point. That sounds terrible. All right, I got to mix up a nice light yellow, because that sucker on the front of his mouth is like a creamy yellow. We want that to be pretty on. Liking that. It's looking a little bit better. Of course, he's also got some of that coloration that runs along the bottom of the jowl here. Jowl. Do fish have jowls? That's it. That's what we want. Now we're starting to see it. And the way I did that blend right there on the side of that face was by, you know, first clearly defining the two layers, the light layer and the dark layer. And then with a good chunk of water, like, you know, that's very, very wet right now. I'm not going to go near that space. But I just sort of put a droplet down, had its own little big meniscus around it, and I just patted that. And the two worlds, the dark and the light, sort of flowed together, right? And now when that settles down, it'll have a really nice organic feel to the blend. Now, a couple things I still have to add to this to kind of get into place is there is a slight gill line that runs right here, like a darker line that runs right here, and I do want to do more work on the eye. There also is a sort of vent that lives on the side of his face here that's got some weird highlights and darks in it. And in order to do that, I got to get in super close on this. So that's going to take a little bit of care. I have this fantastic swing arm magnifier, which I should probably have on my desk right now, but I don't. So that's going to be for another time. I'm just looking over what I have here and trying to figure out what's next. I do have an image of a carp on the screen because, you know, wasn't super familiar with that. He's got a metallic reflectiveness to the eye, and I'm almost thinking about literalizing that to some degree. You know, getting in there with an actual, I have this really nice heavy metallic gold paint. Let me see if I can dig it out. Hang on a second. Found it. And I have a really fine brush. Let's see what I've got here for fine brushes. This is kind of fine. So the thing about fine brushes is it's not necessarily about how fine they are, it's about the condition they're in. You can have a fine brush that's in terrible condition and it's going to make a mess of things for you. Now, let's see about a little drop of this gold. And we'll put that in there and see what we get around that eye. Now this gold is an acrylic, so messing this up is not going to be easy to fix. So what I'm going to do strategically is I'm going to stick close to where the actual pupil is, so that if I want to drop that pupil back in over what I've done, kind of hard to see, but there's a really nice reflectiveness to that now. We're not there yet. We still got a little ways to go. Plus that wash that I did earlier. I'm gonna go full gold on that right now. I think that's kind of justified. Let's let that whole thing dry a little bit. We can go back to her. Let's go back to her. We're gonna let his face dry. We're gonna let that gold dry. And then I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna put a nice stroke of dark over the top of that gold. The gouache will sit on top of the gold. I just can't wash the gold away. Plus, get this. Here's something really interesting. You know, that brush that I just did that gold with is this tiny 10-0 brush. Now to put that into comparison, you know, here is my mono eraser, right? Which is a pretty fine little eraser, right? And this brush is like just so fine, okay? However, I find I get a much finer point on my lines with this number 3 Princeton brush. And that's because the tip is just a better tip. I'm trying to get it in focus. It's a better tip. You can see that this number 3, the brush on the right with the red, versus this other sort of number 10-0, which to me is just ridiculous. This is the better brush. This brush, it's okay, but what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? What do we need on her? She's actually looking pretty good. You know, I'm kind of happy with where she's at right now. Let me see if I can pull up an image of a kingfisher so that I have some notion of what I'm doing. And it looks like I could go, there's going to be a little bit of a line behind her head, or behind her eyeball, which I want to throw in here. So let's do that. Like that. They do both have decent points to them, that's true. I just find, you know, and maybe it's just me, maybe the fatness of this Princeton brush, meaning fatness in the handle, makes me feel better about the way I'm holding it. Makes me more confident in the way I use it. I like that little indentation that we just put in on the back of her head. That feels better. Yeah, she's coming along. All right, she needs some modeling of the feathers under here. His eye is dry. The rest of him is not, but I want to get in there and do a little work on that eye. So first, I want to dig in on that pupil. Sorry, I gotta get off the screen for a second. Okay, that's good. I like that a little bit better now. The gold rim around the eye is a little bit more appropriate. Now, he does have a really complicated eye joint socket. There's a lot going on in there. And I really want to kind of fill that out. I really kind of want that to work. So again, I'm going to try and mix up something here that is not a pure black. See, there you go, Ben. Something like this would make a great sculpture. I agree. And you want to know what? I'm going to put that one on you. So here's your, you take this image, turn it into a sculpture, bust out, find your new space, right? That could be the inspiration for all of your work. Maybe you start with something like a cabinet card and you react to it. You don't know what's going to go down on there, but ultimately something goes down on there. And then that becomes the study for what you do sculpturally. I mean, I have been, my idea, hang on, I'm going to blow this if I'm talking while I'm doing it. My idea for what it is I want to do with these cabinet cards as another layer is performative. I actually want to make these heads as heads that I can wear and do some video. So some of those glass domes with the liquid in them. I want to make those wearable objects. kind of where I've landed with this whole project, rather than making them into sculptures. But I think you should make them into sculptures, right? Yes, I was aware of that. But I think what you're asking for when you're talking about, you know, seeing that show last week, is I think you're looking for something now that is yours. Right? Something that is ultimately yours. So then that's how you got to get there. You got to get there by finding that process that pushes you into something you didn't expect to have before, you know. Yeah, see, now his eye is getting nice and big. He does need a little bit more white in there. It's kind of a nice little blending right there. He needs something. I know what it is. Yeah, I know what it is. I'm trying not to go off screen so you guys can. That's better. Be an interesting class just teaching how to paint eyes of fish, or just playing around with painting the eyes of fish. What complicated, amazing things they are. He's got a little bit of a dark push up in here. And push that in a little bit with a pencil. That's kind of good. Yeah, it's getting there. I think this guy's in huge trouble. I love her look. I like her prominence in the piece too. Like, you know, I'm focusing a lot on his head right now, but I love her sort of her stare down on him. It's just like, you know, as soon as this photographer gets done taking a picture of us, I'm gonna eat you. Of course, that little dark line right behind his mouth terminates in its own little secondary whisker. Yes, that's working well. She's looking good. I'm going to work on a few more details with this until we get to the end of the show. Thanks, Ben. Well, believe it or not, Ben, I mean, look at this. If I put my hand in here, we're talking about a very, very tiny little section of paint, right? So I appreciate that, but honestly, it's not a whole lot. It's tiny. But it is kind of fun. I really wish this camera would focus. Here, let's see if we can go this route. I'm going to go the more highly detailed. Let's go with a more detailed. Oh, that's not what I want. Hold on a minute. What do I want here? Here we go. Let's take a look. See if we can get this to focus in on them a little bit better. She's looking pretty good. Love the carp expression. Yeah, he's like, please don't. Now, there's a little bit of damage on this card, which I'm kind of bummed about. Like, if you look in her dress, like right in this region, you see these white dots. Yeah, there's some specks. This is a really nice, reflective, good quality card, and I loved getting this, but that damage just kind of bums me out a little bit. So I could try to repair it, but I feel like it would be so obvious that I repaired it. So I think we might leave it. This one is kind of, you know, we're really close. So how would I, let's go back to my desk cam for a second. How would I just finish this out? Well, number one, the bird head just sits on top, right? We went outside of her collar. There's no way to really show that, you know, it is not something that I just stuck on there. So I'm gonna just throw in a little drop shadow. You guys know that that's like one of my go-to mechanisms for this, but we should have that, right? And so let me just pencil that in underneath some of these feathers. And it's just gonna be really straightforward. I'm gonna drag it out a little bit with my finger out onto her. I also want my drop shadow line. I want my drop shadow line to sort of follow the contour of her dress. So right now we could imagine that her dress comes down over her chest in this sort of rolled fashion, right? And over where her shoulder is, it might dip in the other direction. There'd also be a drop shadow associated with the beak. Now the very act of smearing the drop shadow, of course, gets a little bit of graphite. On the feathers. I'll go back in and just hit them with a touch of white when I need to. Okay, see how that's working? It's kind of giving me now, it kind of integrates the object with the space a little bit better. feels like it's sitting on top of her a little bit. Let me get it in a little bit closer. Now it feels like it's really sitting there, right? Cool. Now we'll just hit that with a little bit of white. Ben says she looks like she is going to tell him, dear, I have something to tell you. Yes! Oh my God, Ben, I love that. Dear, we need to have a talk. This is gonna hurt. All right, so we just lifted that a little bit. I'm gonna hit that, blend it back into what else is there. And I think we're there. I think we got what we're looking for on this one. As far as the carp goes, I might do a little bit of a drop shadow underneath the chin here, to imply a rounded kind of form in here. It's kind of nice. And then I did want to throw in that gill line that exists. It's just a curved line that runs right around the back of the face here. And there'd be a slight drop shadow behind that as well, because that does stick out a little bit. So I'm just going to pull that in this direction. It's looking mighty good. I'm very happy with that. Now let's get inside that mouth a bit, darken up that space in the mouth. I love the pencil, just as a slight detailing mechanism over the gouache. You can quickly overdo it if you're not careful. There are these two vent holes. I'm going to use the simple black for that because that's more effective as a deep mark. So let's get a little bit of that going. Oh, that was way more paint than I wanted to put out. Two little dots for that vent hole there. Little cleanup here. This one's gonna land on Instagram today. Totally worked out and finished, I think. This is definitely an improvement over last week's. Last week's just left me kind of feeling like, and he thinks, God, what did she do now? Or he's thinking, oh shit, is this the end? Well, anyway, I really like this one. I'm happy with today's piece. So I hope you guys got to do something okay today. Amanda, I'm sorry you're not feeling well. Ben, I'm glad you're working on a new piece. Mom, thanks for the submission. It's awesome. I appreciate taking a look at that. I know the rest of the group enjoyed that. Join me next week. Now, this week on The Large Glass, on Tuesday night at 8, we've got a very cool show coming up. I'm excited about that. fantastic painter that we're looking forward to celebrating. It is also his birthday, so we'll be looking into his life of over 100 years he lived. But fantastic painter. Looks amazing, not for sale, LOL. And that's straight from Teeny's Bar, who sort of has domain over a lot of this stuff. Thanks for that, Ma. I appreciate that. The show coming up Tuesday night looks to be a really good one, though. Also, just keep in mind, cool Patreon content, okay? Think about Patreon. But in the meantime, I'll give you an announcement of when this show opens and see if I can't get some footage from that show. It says, hey, Teeny, I am going to steal it. That is fantastic, Todd. Thanks, Ben. I appreciate it. You guys are all awesome. I appreciate you always having you guys on the show and hanging out and making these drawings. We only did do one trivia question. Should we end with a good one? Let me see if we can end with a good one. One art trivia question. Let's see. Who designed the geodesic dome in the U.S. Pavilion at the 1967 Montreal's World's Fair exhibition? Who designed the Sculptore's here. So Sculptore's going to drop in. He's going to nail the trivia question, and then we're going to be done. Good to see you, buddy. I'm so glad you're here. Yep, exactly. Bucky F., which is Buckminster Fuller, designed that. Mom goes, that's not fair. It's the World's Fair. That was terrible. I can't believe I just said that. Anyway, I would cut back to the camera that's outside on the koi pond so you could compare those carp to this poor carp who, you know, my carp have also encountered the Kingfisher in the past. I don't think they were a married couple like these two, but it did not end well. It did not end well. Anyway, everyone, great having you on this Sunday. Stay cool today. It's going to be super hot out there. And I will see you all next week. Teeny's Bar says Sculptore goes in for the kill. Yeah, he does. Good to see you, Jim. All right, everybody, have a great Sunday. I will see you all very soon.